Okay, so it's time now for episode 3, Reimer on the Road with Ann and Scott, and the moment most of you have been waiting for, the introduction to our rig. We're going to get to that in just a moment. We just got back from seeing visiting Megan in Kansas City, Missouri, which, by the way, is about 3 hours east of the geographic center of the United States of America, which is in Lebanon, Kansas, I believe. And so I think that's kind of a fitting last kind of trip to the heart of the United States before we take a tour around the United States, which we're going to be doing very, very shortly. I also know that we're getting closer because it's about 25 days or so until we go wheels up. And I know that not only because I have a countdown, but also because you've been nesting at home.
Starting to nest, yes.
You were cleaning floors yesterday. You were cleaning out cabinets today. So you're getting serious with the cleaning.
Yeah. Still a lot to be done. That's right. We got to downsize a good bit to get into the RV.
Yes, a great bit before we get to the RV. So all of that being said, we want to introduce you to our rig. And so here is what we decided to purchase for this year-long adventure. We were excited to purchase a 2024 Alliance Avenue 32 RLS, which stands for Rear Living Area. We have 3 slides, 2 in the living area and 1 in the bedroom. We have 2 air conditioning units, 1 in the bedroom and 1 in the living area. The top of the rig is equipped with a 400-watt solar panel. This rig has industry-leading tank sizes with a 98-gallon freshwater tank, a 106-gallon gray tank, and a 53-gallon black tank. We added a washer-dryer unit, which resides in the bedroom in the closet. We also replaced the kitchen table that came with the rig and added a new kitchen table, allowing better access to viewing outside of the rig. We added hydraulic struts to the bed frame, which allowed for easier access to under the bed. We also added hydraulic struts on 2 of our cabinet doors in the kitchen area so that they would stay open. And we added slide toppers, providing coverage over each of the 3 of our slides. Our actual length is right at 34.5 feet when you include the ladder in the back. Okay, so there it is. We're sitting inside of her. Let's start with a question for you that when we first started looking at RVs, we kind of got our mindset on getting a travel trailer, a pull-behind.
We did, yeah.
The fifth wheel, when we would pass it on the road, looked so big and intimidating.
Yes, very intimidating, really large, really tall. It just seemed, daunting.
What changed our mind?
I think, some of your research and then talking to other friends who RV and the fact that we're going to be going across the country, they just told us it is much easier to pull.
Yeah, I think the sway is minimized on a fifth wheel. as opposed to a travel trailer. And especially when we get out west and we're going to be in some very windy areas without a lot of trees, I think that was part of it as well. I think the other thing that, and I know on travel trailers you can get slide outs in the bedroom area, but they're more rare. At fifth wheels, it's very typical to have slide out availability in the bedroom. And that to me was kind of a cool thing, to have a little bit more room up in the bedroom.
Yes.
So the fifth wheel we decided on Alliance. We'll probably talk more about the actual company, and we've been pretty pleased with the customer service that we've received from them when we needed to receive customer service. And in a minute, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons, what we like about it and what we don't like about it. But we also had to name it. And I think you came up with a name, and then I kind of agree with it. So what's the name and why?
We are calling her Allie. Kind of a play off of the brand name Alliance. And it just has a nice little ring to it.
It does have a nice little ring to it. And again, with the Alliance brand, that seems fitting to have her named Allie. So this is Allie. We want to take a moment to tell you the things we love about the rig. And there are plenty of things to love about her, but also some things that we're not a big fan of. We've been on 10 or 15 trips, maybe?
That sounds about right.
So we have a small sample size, and probably by the end of this journey, we'll have different pros and different cons than we have right now. But for now, here are a few things we love about her and some things we wish we could change. Okay, so I'm kneeling down in the bathroom and in the shower of Allie to kind of illustrate and prove a point of what one of my biggest pros, or that I'm happiest with about this rig. Our particular version of the 24 Alliance 32 RLS came with a tankless water heater. It's a Suburban tankless water heater. Now, not all 24 Alliance 32 RLS come with the tankless water heater, and we would have upgraded it had we not gotten it standard on the rig. But since it came standard on the rig, that's kind of a nice little perk. What I love about it is you don't have to count the seconds that you have hot water. And those that have a tank hot water system, you know very well in an RV, those tanks are not very large, which means you have a very limited amount of time of hot water. The tankless provides us really unlimited hot water, and that is a game changer when you're living in it full time. We also have a 106 gallon gray tank. Now, granted, not all of that gray tank is for the shower. That is split between two areas. The shower, everything in the restroom here, and then everything out in the kitchen go to separate tanks. So you don't have 106 gallons ability to take showers. But in most cases, when we're in full hookup, it doesn't matter. We could just dump our gray tank while we're in our spot. Even if we're not in a full hookup spot, we've been able to go 4 days taking showers, regular length showers, not filling up our gray tanks. So it's been a really nice addition to not have to count the seconds that you have hot water.
My likes. Of course, I like the layout in general of our rig, but I do like the kitchen. One of the things that was important to me was having counter space. Having a residential size microwave. Residential size refrigerator. Stove. It's a little small, but for the two of us, I think we can make it work. But it's got 3 burners. I do like to cook, so it'll be nice to have that. And of course, we'll end up utilizing cooking outside as well. I love all the storage. Now, it's going to be a challenge to see if I can get all the stuff that I want to get in here in all this storage, and so I'm going to have to get creative, I think. But just in general, we have storage at the top, we have storage of other the TV. We did add a little coffee setup where I can put some of the crock pot will be here too. I've got my Ninja here, coffee maker here, so when it transports, it actually can stay into here. We've had 2 successful trips where stuff doesn't fall out of it. We do have to turn it sideways as the slides come in. And I've got some ideas if I start having issues with things coming out of it. More storage, of course, here. Our little sort of, if you want to call it, a little coffee nook, although we're not using it for coffee. And then, of course, the pantry, which was big for me, needing to have the extra space to be able to store things when we're traveling, to be able to hopefully hold all of our food. And of course, you can see some things I've added to it. We'll see if it makes a difference.
Another thing that I really like about the design of Alley and this Alliance 32 RLS is the number of windows and the size of them. It's a great view when you're in the living area. And one of the things that we're doing on this trip is we're going around the country because we want to see the country and we want to see the things that make this country great. So to be able to sit in your rig and have so much window access in the living area is just awesome. There's also a good amount of window space in the bedroom as well, and while we don't use that as much in terms of looking out of, it still is nice to be able to have fresh sunlight coming into what is an otherwise darker area of the rig. Also, one of the nice things about the windows is, of course, from the inside looking out, it's very clear, you can see, very good. But there's a little bit of a dark tint on the windows. And what that provides you is a little privacy when someone's looking from outside the rig, inside the rig. You can make out shapes and silhouettes, but it's not as if people are peering right down upon you. Or you don't get that feeling, at least, when you're outside the rig trying to look in. I think that's a nice addition so that it gives you a little bit of privacy while still allowing you to have plenty of windows on the inside to look out. Okay, a nice little perk that came with this rig as well is the Goodyear Endurance travel trailer tires, which are the industry standard now. And a lot of rigs don't come with these tires. They come with what people generally call the China tires. They go bad really quickly, and most people don't even use them. They just switch out as soon as they buy the RV. So it was nice that this came with our rig. So once we bought it and purchased it and took it, we didn't have to do any additional modifications to the tire. Been very pleased with the tire so far, and certainly tires are critical when you're going down the road in your tiny home.
The dislikes that I have on the rig are mainly in the bedroom. So let me show you. So come on back. The first is the setup for the washer dryer combo that we have. So that is an addition that we added to it. In some of them, there's a separate closet right here, so it's easier access. We don't have that. We have to access it here. So right now, I have no clothes set up, but when we go full time, this is going to be full of clothes. So you're going to have to be moving the clothes around to get down here, to get to the washer and dryer. And I just think that's just not going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, so I'm standing next to our Lippert leveling system that we use to unhitch and hitch to the truck, and then of course level when we get to a site. And I must confess, I am struggling with this. And it's very probably just user error. It's just not me having enough experience with it. And let me begin by saying this is a first world problem, and I know that. Many of you that camp don't have the luxury of a leveling system to try to get your rig level. And so I have a great tool here that not everybody has that is RVing. But I do have it, and I paid for it with my rig, and I just struggle to get it to work with the one button touch auto level. Now, I can manually go up and down using the Lippert to get the rig level. That part's not a problem. It's easy to do, it's easy to work with, and we've had no issues getting level. Although I have had to reset the Lippert one time, and you can go on YouTube and find out how to do that, because it would say it was level, but it wasn't 100% level, the rig that is. But I digress. It has a button on here, a one punch button called auto level, that in theory you should be able to press, and voila, you become level with it doing it automatically with the leveling system that it's built into the legs of the RV. But I just cannot get it to work. It doesn't want to do it. And a lot of times I think it's because I'm not level enough for it to be able to work. In other words, you've got to, I believe, be pretty level or close to level when you try to do the auto level for it to work. Otherwise, the system doesn't want to mess around with doing that, knowing that you're a little more off level than normal before you level. I don't know. I don't know what my issues are with it, but what I do know is that the one touch auto level button has only worked one time for me. Every other time I'm having to manually go up and down with the Lippert system in order to get level. And again, that's a pretty easy process. It's just shouldn't be that difficult. And if it's that difficult for me, it's probably that difficult for some others until you get more experience.
This is our light switch, okay? And I think they need to have an outlet here, because the only outlet on this wall is up here. Where there's supposed to be a TV, you could put a TV. We're not going to put a TV. But when I run the fan, or I have any of my chargers going for any of my electronics, I'm having to run up here, and then you got wires hanging down. So that's just a bad design. Maybe they fixed it since this one's been built, but I think it would have been smart to have an outlet here, or even on this side, just to somewhere along on this side. You have all this nice space, but nowhere to charge other than up here. And then, as I said, this is our outlet for our overhead lights. And here, as I squeeze through, it is a little tighter, but we did choose to go with the king bed. So in going with the king bed, we lost some of our space on either side. So there is an outlet on either side and a USB charging point on either side of the bed, which is very nice. But we also have lights here. Well, that light is here, which by the time we added the new mattress with the mattress pad, it's covered up. And so, and there's not a reciprocal light on this side. So it's not like a double way where and that's my side of the bed. This is Scott's side of the bed. And he typically goes to bed earlier than I do. So I cannot leave these lights on, or I'm going to be having to reach over him to get to this to turn it off. So what we typically do is we just don't use this light after we get in. I have seen in some of the newer, and I even think some of the later 2024s, I have seen where Alliance fixed that, and it's on the end where it should be. So you're not, even if this was a little smaller, you wouldn't be hitting it, as you roll over. It's nicer to have it here on the end cap.
Okay, one of my dislikes, I'm actually going to have Ann demonstrate, for lack of a better word, although we're not going to actually cut it on. I don't use it very much because Ann has been the one to turn it on, but turning on the stovetop and the oven, as I've watched her try to do this, is extremely difficult to do. I don't understand why it's so hard to do, but maybe you're getting better at it, I don't know, but it frustrates me watching you.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any better at it, and I really cannot figure out the rhyme or reason to it. But basically, you can turn them on. The actual stovetop is not as big of an issue. You go to get the gas lit, and it clicks, and then it finally will hit the gas, and you get your light. But it's more of an issue in the oven. The oven, it has taken me numerous times, trying to get it to ignite, and you can hear it clicking, you can see it, you can see the pilot light, you can see it doing all that stuff, it's just not igniting. And I just have to be patient with it, and you just have to keep going. And so, of course, we don't have the gas hooked up because we're sitting in our driveway, but I feel very confident, probably on our very first trip of this year tour, we're going to have issues with getting this started. And so you're going to get to see this in the future, I have no doubt.
So my dislike and frustration is because I don't like to see you frustrated.
I appreciate that.
So there you have it, our pros, our cons. We're counting down to leaving. It's getting exciting, nervous, all of those emotions. When we see you next, we're going to announce our first stop. And we will then solicit, hopefully, your input. Because I think one of the things we want to do is before we get to a place, we want to let everybody know where we're going so that they can provide comments, feedback, emails, whatever, however you would communicate with us to tell us what are some of the top things to do in that area. Right. And we'll talk more about this in episode 4, but those kinds of things are going to be what adventures we'd want to do in these areas.
Their food locations we should go to.
Yes, food.
That's my love. Yes.
Breweries, local breweries, places that are unique to the area that we are at.
Yes. Or is there a certain type of food we need to, a dish that's popular there that we should definitely hit up. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff we want to know.
So we will announce that in the next episode. That'll give you guys the opportunity to give us your input and your suggestions before we get to the first place. And then each place we stay will also have a video recap of some of the things that we did and some of the things we loved about it, just like we did here with Allie, and some of the things that we didn't care as much about for that area. Right. So that is the plan. We're just a few days away from getting going. We appreciate you following along with us on this journey. It's Reimer on the Road, Ann and Scott. Subscribe if you'd like to follow along, and of course, we'd love to have your comments through it all. So until next time, it's Reimer on the Road. Do it today.